Walk up and shake your hand, you sit down. We're gonna do like a chest bump. And then I don't know if I want to do an intro. There's nothing really I want to say because I don't really even like him.
I was hoping for this special occasion. Your brother was gonna come here.
Alright guys, short intro, straight into the tutorial. And this video is going to be slightly longer with hopes that y'all can take away a few more things from these tutorials. I hope that it helps. As usual, all the steps and tools will be in the description below. We're going to start by using the wide side of the comb to then start combing his hair into its neutral position. You want to make sure that you are combing according to the cowlick. Again, we're just trying to get the hair to lay in its neutral position. Starting with a number 2 guard, lever completely open, we're going to start debulking some of that side. And the reason I almost always debulk the sides if the hair is a little bit longer, it's just so then when I come back and set up my guidelines, I can see them as clear as possible. As you can see, I am exaggerating that flick out motion. You don't want to dig in. This is just to clean out the surface. So make sure that you are being easy with the wrist and flicking out as you come towards the top. Alright guys, now to set in our first guideline, we're going to use no guard and we're going to close that lever completely. And this is going to be a drop fade, so we're going to slant it as we approach the back of that ear. Again, I'm being easy with the wrist and flicking out as I reach the top of these guidelines. And yes, my clippers are zero gapped. I will leave a video down in the description below to an instruction on how we zero gap our clippers, as I highly suggest you try it as well. So yeah, go ahead and take this guideline all around and make sure that you end up at that same temple peak area on the other side. Alright guys, and for the second guideline, we're going to open up the lever completely and we're going to take this up about ½ an inch or so. Again, stay easy with the wrist, make sure that you are flicking out as you reach the top of it. As you can see, it's about a finger's width. Make sure that this guideline and almost every guideline runs parallel to the one underneath, so your fade is consistent throughout. Make sure that you always keep a small brush or comb in your opposite hand to then clean out the canvas after every few strokes, as it is crucial that you see it as clean as possible. As you can see, I didn't go all the way to the front as I wanted to leave that temple peak area a little bit darker. Now with my number 1 guard, lever still completely open, we're going to continue the process and create a third guideline. Again, taking it up about a finger's width. And the length on top is about 3 fingers or so. It is pretty long on top, so I hope that by making this video a little bit longer, y'all can take away a few new things on how I fade into longer lengths like this. Just take your time with it all, guys. There's no reason to rush. Y'all already know, if y'all been seeing a few of my videos, y'all know that I'm highly behind. Taking your time, and I take about 45 to 60 minutes on each client, and yes, this is on a day-to-day work basis. Now with the number 2 guard, lever completely open, we're going to continue that process. And as you can see, I am coming straight up and out from the head. I do not want to dig in these guards as we start approaching the parietal ridge. Flick out, but don't be afraid to to go over it once or twice. It is important that we clean up the canvas as best as possible. It's going to make it a lot easier when we come back down and start erasing these guidelines. And as you can see with the smaller guards, I did have a brush, and as I start approaching the number 2 and 3, I start using a comb. Now with my number 3 guard, lever completely open, we're going to continue that process, exaggerating that flick out motion. And if you notice, as I'm setting up the canvas, the lever stays completely open. All that changes is the guards. Again, all the steps to this haircut are in the description below. You could always screenshot them and follow along that way as well. And let me know down in the comments below, guys, if y'all like these longer videos, or do y'all prefer that I try to keep them as compressed as possible. I know my usual length is anywhere from like 10 to 12 minutes, but I wanted to double it again just in hopes that y'all can take away something new, or I grasp something that I didn't grasp on the shorter videos. And this will be the last guard that I will be using, but as you can see, it's still leaving a lot of length and bulk at that parietal ridge. So what I'm gonna do is clipper over comb, and if you're new to clipper over comb, I highly suggest that you put the number 1 guard, or even me to this day, I like to open up that lever completely and do my clipper over comb work. And by using a number 1 guard, it's just gonna be like a safety net, that way you don't cut more than you need to. And yeah, just make sure that you are recombing the surface after every stroke. That way you see how the hair is laying and if you need to cut a little bit more. As you can see, the length is good, but we have a little bit of weight, so I like to remove that with my thinning shears over comb. Again, the tools will be in the description below, guys. And thank y'all so much for those who have been supporting us and shopping at fadedculture.co, buying up our merch. And I know recently, a few weeks back, we dropped a matte black razor, and y'all keep buying that out, man. I appreciate that. By now you should have the first guideline that we created with the 0, second that we created with the half, and third that we created with the number 1 guard lever open. We're gonna start with that one and work our way down. Using my 1.5 guard, I'm gonna close the lever just slightly, putting it into a 3/4 position. It's basically somewhere between halfway and fully open. And we're gonna start attacking that top guideline. If you were easy enough on the wrist, the 2 should have blended in right to that 3, and there's no reason to do any work there. Again, just attacking that top guideline. There is going to be some areas where I feel like it gets a little bit tighter, and I'll start using mainly the corners of the clipper to get into those tighter areas. As you can see, now I'm starting to cut towards that front where I initially left it a little bit longer for that temple peak area to be darker. Now attacking the second guideline coming down, we're going to use a half guard, still in that 3/4 position. The lever does not change, just change the guard out. And this is where I start using mainly the corners of the clipper, as I do not want to take this step higher than what it needs to be. But this step in particular does create a faint line right above it. But do not take this step any higher, as we will come back right now with the one guard and start to remove that. Now, like I mentioned, with my number one guard, the lever is going to stay in that 3/4 position, and we're going to attack that faint line that the half guard created. The majority of this step is using the corner of the clipper, guys. Again, it's just so you don't take this step any higher. I highly suggest that you start trying to use the corner technique if you haven't already, just to get a feel for what it does and how it does work. And we're already about halfway into this tutorial, guys. If y'all made it this far, please give it a thumbs up if you're learning something or have learned something from our past tutorials, guys. Thank y'all so much for tuning in. And finally, we're left with that initial guideline that we started with the 0. For this one, I'm gonna work in sections at a time. We're gonna start with the lever closed completely, then we're gonna open it halfway, then we're gonna open it up all the way. It's gonna be a 3-step process to remove this last line. We're gonna take each of those notches up just slightly, again using mainly the corners of the clipper. Again, guys, all my clippers and trimmers are 0 gap. I highly suggest that you try it. Now we're gonna open up the lever halfway, just taking up this notch just slightly. And yeah, like I was saying, the tutorial to 0 gap is in the description below. Check it out, because you want to make sure that you do 0 gap them properly, because for instance, if your trimmers, if you over 0 gap them, they will scratch your client's scalp, guys. Finally, we're gonna open up the lever completely. And I hope by not cutting this video as much, y'all can see how I'm attacking these little dark spots with the corners of the clipper. And now that I finished that 3-step process on his left side, I'm going to use that 3-step process and focus just on the back side now. Again, I always like to break this last step down into 3 sides, because this line is the most tedious and I like to take my most time with it just to get it down as best as I can. Here the lever is halfway. And finally, we're going to open it up all the way. Very simple, guys. And yeah, that's pretty much it. Now you're going to repeat that same 3-step process on his right side. And there you guys have it. The fade is pretty much done. All that we have left is remove that bottom hair and get to shaving. And this is where, by 0 gapping your clippers like I initially want y'all to try, it's going to make it a lot easier to get that shaver into the fade. Now with my half guard, I'm just gonna go ahead and do any touch-up work. And right here I'm just putting lever play because this is gonna vary from one side of the head to another. And just poking at any dark spots. And dark spots is something that you're gonna develop with time, guys. Don't be so anxious and frustrated if you don't see any. You can always just try to step back and view him from the mirror, as it will give you a different angle, a different look, and that might help you point out some dark spots and just do any little touch-up work that you need to. Now we're gonna start rounding his temple peak area. And that was the reason why I didn't bring the fade all the way forward in the beginning, so I can leave that area a little bit darker. Now by using my trimmer in this forward direction, we're gonna get as closest to the scalp as possible. And just go ahead and remove that faint line that created. And by getting as close as skin to the possible, right now when we start removing that bottom hair, you're gonna see a faint line, and that's gonna be used as a guideline on how high up we should take that electric shaver. Again, this is where by zero gapping your trimmers very properly, you're not scratching the client. And I usually remove the beard line about mid-ear, and that usually gives me enough space to fade down into the beard and fade up to the fade. As I'm removing this bottom hair, you're seeing that distinction that I was mentioning earlier. This is going to be used as our guideline on how high up we take up the electric shaver. And I know some of y'all have asked me about maintenance on clippers, guys. I usually do 3 drops, a few of those oil drops every day, and of course I use a disinfectant spray before and after each client. And I want y'all to notice right here as I turn my shaver around as I approach that faint line and start using it as if it was a clipper, and I am even kind of flicking out as I approach it, or I start using mainly the corners of that shaver to make sure that we don't push the fade up any higher. Make sure that you are shaving in the direction of the scalp, especially in the back. Here we're just going to start trimming away at the facial hair. I'm blending in the facial hair, starting with the number 1 guard lever fully open. We're going to use the same process, now it's just backwards. Now I'm going to close the lever all the way. And then again repeat that same 3-step process, but now just backwards. We're starting with the lever fully open. Now halfway. And finally close it all the way. And then just go ahead and finish that up with your trimmer. And repeat on the other side. And as for the neckline, just like the edge up, I like to start in the middle and work my way to the side. And when they try to leave it as full as possible, I usually go about a finger up from the Adam's apple. And personally, I like to use the electric shaver on the neckline How do y'all guys feel about that? Do y'all use a straight razor, or do y'all like the electric shaver instead? And of course, they'll always consult with the client, as some clients are more prone to ingrowns. So some might just want just a trimmer, and some will need you to shave just with the grain. And here I'm just gonna go ahead and freehand any frizz. I usually do this on the haircut as well. So always step back, view him from the front, recomb everything, and start to remove any frizz, guys. It's all the little details that add up and matter and make for the bigger picture at the end. And here I'm just gonna go ahead and use my electric shaver on that mustache area, just to get a little bit closer to the scalp than I would by shaving with the grain using my straight razor. Applying a little bit of shave gel so we can then start refining his whole lineup. And a little tip that I have with shave gel is I do apply a little bit of water after the shave gel. I feel like it just brings out the life of that shave gel and it doesn't dry out as quick. Using my Faded Culture matte black straight razor, we're gonna go ahead and get started on this razor work. Make sure that you are asking him to pull his lip in as you help stretch it out as well, just to ensure a softer, smoother shave. And again, guys, these razors will be stocked up hopefully by the end of this week. Thank y'all so much for those who have been purchasing them. I found that by using a matte black razor, it really helps that distinction from the razor and the blade. And always using your opposite hand to help stretch out that skin, guys. And this is a Turkish style razor, very lightweight and super thin, guys. These are amazing, and I'm not even saying that because they're our brand. I'm genuinely saying that, guys. I used to have a bulkier razor, and once I switched to this one, man, I saw a huge difference. And here I'm just dusting them off, even using my blow dryer. I like to clean them up as best as possible, guys, so that way they can get up out of the chair and go about their day. Here I'm using a little bit of texturizing powder to bring out a little bit of volume on top, and just kind of run it through the hair. Alright guys, this is the before in case y'all forgot. And this is the after, guys. A bald drop fade. We left the length on top, we left the length on the beard as well. We just went ahead and cleaned up all the frizz. I hope y'all took something new out of this, guys. Again, let us know down below in the comments if y'all like these longer tutorials, or do y'all want the compressed versions. Let me know, guys. Give it a thumbs up. Do not forget to subscribe as usual. Thank you so much for tuning in. We'll see you on the next one. Peace.